and welcome. You're watching Rebooting India. I'm Kajari Sen, and it's time now to take a look at what's buzzing as far as the economy and the business world is concerned. And it was volatility all the way on the Sensex today as the key indices regained positive zone, went into negative zone, went back into positive zone, and then ended the day in the negative. The Sensex ending well below the psychological 21,000 mark, which it had breached in the day's trade, having alternatively moved above and below that. The market breadth, which was indicating the overall health of the market, turned negative from positive in mid-afternoon trade. In fact, 21,039, that was the point which the Sensex had reached. Meanwhile, the Nifty's highest point of trade today was 6,252. However, the Nifty closed below the important psychological 6,200 mark at 6,164, down about 14 points. And let's take a look at what led this to happen. Well, part of it was the IT stocks. What we saw on the IT stocks today was bad news pretty much across the board. You can see TCS's numbers up there for you, 52 points down. Wipro still very, very shaky after its results yesterday. We saw it massively in the red today and continued to be in the red. It's at 21 points down. We saw the same story as far as Infosys is concerned. Infosys was also strongly in the red. In fact, the entire IT index, if we take a quick look at it, was down about 148 points. Trying to desperately balance it out was the banking stocks. Banking stocks were in the green today, one of the indices which did very strongly indeed. Yesterday, the banking stocks were doing very well as well. There's a certain confidence which is coming in as far as public sector banks are concerned with the meetings which have been happening with the finance minister. There's been a lot of positivity on private banking as well. So as you can see, if you quickly take a look there at what's happening on the banking sector, some of them turning to the red later in the day's trade, but mostly in the green. And the other heavyweight which was pulling the markets down later in day's trade was Reliance Industries. But meanwhile, the 21,000 mark being breached for the first time in 3 years, a lot of positivity there coming out of that. Is it too much positivity? Let's go over to Deven Choksi of KR Choksi Securities, who's with us now to answer our questions on that. Mr. Choksi, when we look at the 21,000 mark and we hear people talking about the 22,000 marks, do you think they're going too far too soon?
Well, I think the market has expectations largely coming in because of since last 5 years, I think we are almost at the same zone, trading zone, and at the same time now the situations appearing to be turning little better, more from the point of view that the global liquidity is supporting most of the world market, and that's where I think the emerging market like India is also finding the attraction. The second most important point as I see it, I think the market basically expects that there would be a wind of change happening in this country, because for such a long period of time, I think if the growth has not happened in the economy, now any government or any regulatory authority will come up and they will probably start assuming the growth in the economy. So that is the second point. At the same time, I think the valuation wise, if you look at, I think most of the companies are priced reasonable at this point of time. And that's what I think is also building in the optimism. And across the sector within them, I think the stocks, they are quoting at probably some of the lowest valuations, I think, which we have probably seen for such a prolonged period of time. So all of them put together, along with the global factor of liquidity, is helping the market to scale up to a newer highs. Sustain these particular newer highs, I think certainly you require more amount of impetus, more amount of positive directions coming in from the government in implementing some of the pending infrastructure initiatives and the projects. If that does happen, and if there is a growth coming in the economy, I am sure I think market can touch even newer highs going forward. As of now, we would remain a little bit more watchful. We would be cautiously optimistic in this kind of a situation.
Cautiously optimistic. In the meanwhile, of course, where do you think more self-confidence is going to be coming in as far as the investor is concerned? When we've been taking a closer look at what's happening on the stock exchange at the moment, we are seeing volatility, heavy volatility, even in intraday trading. Do you think that's something that needs to be looked at very carefully going ahead?
Well, volatility would continue to be in the system, I think, as long as we see the kind of uncertainties continuing in the global marketplace and including in India. I don't see that. I think volatility could be wished away very easily, and probably you cannot probably expect that the market to remain less volatile in coming period as well. To my mind, I think for the market to assume, I think, a lesser volatility would mean that I think it has to assume a secular bull run. which according to me I think we may be in a preparatory stage at this point of time.
Right.
Maybe if one looks at 6 months in advance, I think one would find that I think this is the preparatory stage of I think a secular bull run emerging into our markets.